Call the Planning Commission to order this evening. Roll call, please.
Chairman Cox,
Here.
Vice Chairman Ferris,
Here.
Commissioner Hayman. Here. Commissioner Mondragon.
Here.
Commissioner Poctus.
Here.
5 present, we have a quorum.
Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Bernie, would you lead us in it, please?
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Do I have an approval for the agenda?
So move.
Second.
Chairman Cox,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Hayman.
Aye.
Commissioner Mondragon.
Aye.
Commissioner Poctus.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Do I have an approval for the minutes of 9:24 and 11:12? There's only 3 here that can vote on this. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, so Chairman Cox,
Present.
abstain. Vice Chairman Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Hayman.
Aye.
Commissioner Mondragon.
Aye.
Commissioner Poctus. Sorry. I'm gonna get
Aye.
it. Abstain?
Abstain. So you'll only want to vote on something that you've been here for.
That was the 3. Gotcha.
So 3 ayes.
3 ayes. Carries. Okay, moving on. Non-agenda public comments, persons wishing to address the commission on matters that are within the commission's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Planning Commission may not take action on these items that do not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Do we have anybody that wishes to talk to the commission on items that are not on the agenda? Anybody on the phone? Okay. Seeing none, moving on at 6:02. Discussion and other action items. Appointing the chair and vice chair is our item 1. Do I have a motion for the chair of the Planning Commission? I'd nominate you.
Well, I would nominate you for chair again.
Okay. Any other nominations? Anybody else wants to be chair?
I would nominate Bill. No, I just went blank.
Okay. So we have 2 nominated, both Bill and I, right?
Yes.
Okay. So do them one at a time.
Okay, so we'll take a vote. So for Mr. Cox for chairman,
Do I vote for myself?
yes, so we'll do roll call. Cox? Do you have a vote?
Aye.
Ferris?
Warren.
Hayman?
Warren.
Mondragon?
Warren.
Thank
Poctus?
I'm going to break them all and go Ferris.
Okay. Okay,
Oh,
so
you
we'll go
guys.
Chairman Cox with the 4 ayes.
Okay, I nominate Bill Ferris as our co-chair. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay,
Any dissent? That went quicker, didn't it?
Yeah.
There you go.
all right.
All right, moving on. Committee assignments. We're thinking about maybe doing a few changes if possible. So I really want to ask, on City Org, we're going to just have it out for right now. Because of Cody's experience, we were thinking of assigning him to infrastructure. Would that be okay with you, Bernie?
Yes, well.
Yeah, if you want to stay on infrastructure, then I will go to another committee.
I would like to stay on infrastructure.
Okay, so let's put those two on infrastructure. And Bernie, what was your other assignments?
Economic development,
Okay? You want to stay there?
yes, if I can.
Okay, and who else was on economic development?
I was.
You want to stay there?
I do.
Okay. Parks and Rec?
Me.
Okay. And me. And they,
I'm going to ask you guys to appoint for city org, and then I'll let you know, just in case, because by the time we have another meeting, they'll already have a meeting, because council will decide next week if they're going to have it or not. So if it's not, then I'll send you guys an email letting you know you're off the hook for city org, but let's just appoint tonight.
Cody, would you do Parks and Rec as your second one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have time to do that? Look at the times they're meeting. First Tuesday, 5:30, and then your infrastructure is fourth Thursday at 5. Does that work for you?
I think he's looking at his calendar.
I'm going to stay open, just depends on what goes with city org,
Okay.
okay?
Yes, I'm good with those.
Okay.
You want to go with org?
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah.
Do I have a second that could be available for
So I
org?
was on city org before.
Okay.
So I'll continue with that,
Perfect.
if that's all right.
But you'll let us know on it, right?
Yeah, I'll let you guys know after
Sure.
next Wednesday.
Okay. Moving on, item 3 on our agenda is the housing element, general plan, annual progress report. Staff?
So this is our annual report. Every year, we do this. This report is required by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, and the general plan annual progress report is required by the California Office of Planning and Research. So everything that's in here is our housing numbers, everything we did in planning, and then everything we did in permitting, so building. And then the general plan is obviously all the actions that we took and city council took over the year, and how those conform with our general plan. So the first portion is going to be our housing element progress. So this one is just telling us the numbers that we saw in planning, so through entitlements, and through permitting, and then through things that were actually completed. I will let you guys know that all the pictures in here are projects that are actually ours. So this is some new apartments over on Aileen. So the numbers for this year are single family, we entitled 408 units. So those were things like our track map extensions. And then we did do that parcel map or tentative track map that was multi-units. So that's what the entitlements were. Those were the things that came before you guys. The permitting, so those were the actual things that came and applied for a permit. We had 13 in the calendar year. And 11 houses, single-family homes, were completed, so they had occupancy in the calendar year. I will mention for the public, there are 2 copies of the report up there if you do want to take one. So for the 2 to 4 units, so those are duplexes and just multifamily units. As you guys are aware, that a lot of those are SB 9, so that was the California law that allowed for duplexes on single-family lots, and it also allowed for lot splits. So a lot of these are that, and then some are just like the other units that you just saw in the last picture. They were already multifamily. But so for entitlements, there were 86, and again, we had that track map that had 60-something units that you guys actually approved. And then the rest of those were applications that came through. We had 26 units permitted, and then 31 were completed in the calendar year. And then for accessory dwelling units, we had 7 that were entitled, and they were also permitted, and 3 of those have occupancy. So the total units for entitlements for the year is 501 units. Permitted were 46, and completed were 45. Did you have a question?
I do.
Okay.
Only because the 2 to 4 units. It says 26 were permitted, 31 were completed. Is that just because the calendar year, those were permitted the previous year?
Yes. So what happens is a lot of times, especially what we're seeing this year, is that the California Building Code changes every couple of years, right? And so everyone rushes in December before that code year changes, and they get permitted. So those permits are not counted in this calendar year because they would have been permitted in the previous year in 2022. But those permits are good for 6 months before they even can start. So we do see a large rush of people trying to hold the code year. And so then and sometimes it just takes several years that they're working on the project. So definitely the actual permitted versus completed, it's going to be different, just depending on how long it takes them to build.
Okay. Thank you.
So for the permitting and planning activity, so SB 9, that was what we talked about with the lot splits and duplexes on single family. We did not do any lot splits, but we did get 26 units that were duplexes on single family. So those are considered ministerial approval. So that means that if they meet the requirements as far as setbacks, that it has to be approved. And then discretionary review are the items that come before us, come before you guys here at Planning Commission. So that's like our track map extensions and track maps and such. So there was 471 of those. This is a new RHNA cycle. So that's our regional housing allocation that's required by the state as part of our housing element that we did last year. So this reporting period, the state did give us 6 months of 23, which was interesting. So we got from June through this calendar year in 2024. So the total that we're at right now for meeting our RHNA is 61 moderate and 14 above moderate income units. Just to clarify, the moderate income units, those are based off of sales prices, and so that's generally more of our infill. So the things in like Ridgecrest Heights or any of our neighborhoods that are partially built, and our above moderate income is essentially the houses that you see in the picture right behind you. These are new, whole new tracks over on Abigail. So for the general plan, so this is how our actions are helping us meet the goals in the general plan. Behind you, you'll see our beautiful new landscaping and paving over at the Leroy Jackson Park. So this is behind the tennis courts or the pickleball courts, whatever you want to call them. Some of our zoning amendments, we did accessory structures, so we worked on defining what was acceptable accessory structures, not to be confused with accessory dwelling units. These are like sheds, garages, those type of things. So we did do that last year. We also updated our medium density residential. There was some discrepancy in what was permitted and what was the conditional use in that, so we corrected that. And then we also added in some items that the California regulations required, which was the residential care homes, the single room occupancy, and employee housing. So that helped us be in compliance with state regulations. So behind the image here is the new Ridgecrest Medical Transport Office. So it's actually, I think it's nice, so I'm excited to see that. It's on Ridgecrest Boulevard. So these are our different elements in our general plan. So the circulation element, some of the projects we did were the West Ward. There was some culverts on Gold Canyon. We have a study on the Bowman Channel, Measure V paving, and then some transit items. The land use, I just put together land use and community design because they generally go hand in hand. And so those are the projects that you guys saw. So Wendy's, the storage, High Desert Haven, we did that CUP for them, and then the Balsam Street land purchase. Open space, we did a lot of the work on the Leroy Jackson, the aquatic complex, and the demo of Penny Pool. They did some repairs for drainage on the splash pad, and then the tennis courts were resurfaced, and the skate park has that same paved walking path, lighting, and there's little shade structures and benches. If you guys are ever, wanting to go for a little walk, go check it out. It's very nice. So health and safety, these are things that the school resource officer, and then we have the flock safety, and then they purchase some equipment. For housing, we have the trend of track map extensions. With those, we approved the extension of maps for 423 units. We had a couple of abatements to help clean up some houses, and then the CUP for High Desert Haven. So as we head into this year, some goals, we still have some rezoning to do. I've held off on that until our housing element is adopted. The housing element is at HCD, so we are just waiting. We had to update some of our programs to kind of be in compliance with new state regulations. So we're waiting for some additional comments from them. And then once that's done, we're going to launch into some of this rezoning. For the zoning code, we're going to be working on a landscaping design standards for commercial properties. It's time. As we've decreased watering, we just might need a little bit more of what we want to see. Just thinking about how companies are branding and everything has become kind of bland. So if we provide a little bit better standard, and then hopefully Bernie here can help us out and come up with plants that aren't going to, they're going to last too, because our seems to be a reoccurring problem that it's not just a matter of water efficient, but are they going to survive here? So that will be before you guys. And one of the big ones that's coming is we have been awarded a grant, a federal grant, and a portion of that grant has 2 projects that are going to be before you guys. One of them is we're going to update the military sustainability element. We're going to update it to adopt the 2011 ACU study, which impacts some of our residential zoned and then some of our commercials. So we're going to be doing a general plan amendment to adopt those maps and then potentially change some of that zoning to be compatible with the noise level in those areas. And then another portion of that grant is we have a study for housing development to look at potential solutions for housing for the installation. The GIS mapping is almost done, but we'll be launching that. The standard building plans, same thing. They're nearing completion. They will be available at the counter. We will be starting the Kern multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan as well. And hopefully we're going to get that housing element approved very soon. That is the end of my presentation. The requested action is that you recommend that City Council review this, and they direct staff to submit it to HCD and the Office of Planning and Research. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions, commissioners?
Nothing for me.
Motion to approve and send up to City Council.
I'll second.
Do you want to do a roll call on it?
Bernie?
Do we have any public comment?
Any public comment? Thank you.
All right. Chairman Cox,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Hayman. Aye. Commissioner Mondragon,
Aye.
Commissioner Poxtis.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, moving on. Commissioner comments or committee reports?
So I covered infrastructure for you this week, or last week. And it seems they're having some difficulty with some of the traffic signals. Travis reported on that. A couple traffic studies for four-way stops, but nothing else to report on.
Okay. Vanessa?
Honey.
Bernie, anything else?
Nope.
Cody, how about your committee? You can see we're casual here, right? Well, thanks for covering through my challenges.
Absolutely.
And so before we move on from that, one thing that I've requested, it's kind of an offshoot, a little bit of this, is that staff in the near future, whether February or March, we're going to talk about some standards, commercial building standards. We have buildings in town that have commercial facades, some that don't. You know, we've received what some other cities have done. And I did talk to an engineer that's prevalent in our committee, or our commission a lot of times, Darrell Witten, to get his input as well. And he made some suggestions that I passed on to staff. Do's and don'ts, the mistakes that some of the other cities have made that have kind of stifled development and growth, thinking that they were doing a good thing. And so we kind of want to make it, Heather used the word substantive rather than touchy-feely.
So any design standards have to be, they have to be measurable.
So, yeah, we don't want to make it terrible, but you certainly don't want to have a standard that is loose enough that it completely stands out from anything around it. You know, it just looks like a square peg in a round hole. And so I've asked her to bring some of that to us so that we can put together a standard and send it to City Council for approval. If there's anything that you guys can think of that you would like to share with her, you can do it now, or you can email her or call her on the phone, and she'll kind of put some stuff together. She sent me some stuff, and we've already discussed, you know, some of it that I go, no. That's not something we really want to do, and so when it comes down to it, we'll explain. It won't catch you out of it, but it's kind of like, well, let's not make that part of our element.
Sure.
So,
I think you're on the right track when you don't want to stifle any sort of development, but at the same time, not just make it a free-for-all. So I think that having some sort of structure there, some sort of guidance is probably prudent.
well, and you'll see that in this element, they talked about commercial landscaping, you know, and so, yeah, if we had some minimal building requirements maybe to make it complementary to the neighborhood, its neighbors, and whether it's downtown, uptown, or out of town. So anyway, look for that. And so think about it, and if you have ideas, either write them down, share them with Heather. You can call me as well, and we'll put it together and bring something before you. Anything else on that, Heather, you think?
No, like as we talked about, Commissioner Plaxis has shared some cities that are surrounding us. So I think, you know, how we'll approach that is we'll, you know, just kind of show what some other places are doing, and you guys can have some time to think about what you think works. And we'll spend it more like a committee and kind of hash it out long-term to see. And that way we have some time too to get public feedback, get feedback from our developers and our builders. So we know, like, we're not creating obstacles, but we are creating a standard that's livable. So I think that's how we'll approach that.
Approval? Any ideas, any other ideas?
I really like this idea. This is something that I spoke with Heather when I first came on board a week and a half ago. And as she mentioned, I've dealt with this in some other cities, and there's some good and there's some bad. And if we can find that middle ground, I think that'll really help the city of Ridgecrest long-term look better and be a
Yeah.
great place to live.
Well, and that's where we need to be. So, okay. Staff items?
No, I've talked enough. I'm good.
All right, then I call an adjournment at 6:25.